I returned from a business trip and found my wife in the garage. Our son had locked her in there. Yeah, I know how insane that sounds. When I first pulled into the driveway and heard the faint banging from inside the garage, I thought maybe something had fallen or the door got jammed. But then I heard her voice muffled, frantic, and unmistakably hers, screaming my name. I sprinted over, unlocked the door, and there she was sitting on the cold concrete floor, her wrists red from where she'd been pounding against the metal, her face streaked with tears. And when she saw me, she didn't cry in relief. She looked at me like I was the enemy. That's when I realized something much darker was going on. Tell me, if you came home and found your spouse locked in the garage, and your own teenage son standing there completely calm, saying, "She deserved it," what would you do? Because that's exactly the nightmare I walked into. It all started a few days before that. I had been gone for a 4-day business trip, the kind where every day is filled with meetings, presentations, and endless small talk over bad hotel coffee. My wife, Jenna, had stayed home with our 16-year-old son, Ryan. Things between the two of them had been strained, to say the least. Ryan had hit that phase where every rule was an insult, every piece of advice was nagging, and every curfew was unfair. Jenna was the stricter parent she always had been. She believed in structure, chores, accountability. I was the one who tried to balance it out, maybe too much sometimes. When Ryan and I would toss a football in the yard, she'd yell at him to finish his homework. When she'd make him clean his room, I'd sneak him a few bucks for doing a good job. I thought I was keeping the peace, but maybe I was just building resentment. Before I left for the trip, I noticed tension in the house. Jenna had been quieter than usual. Ryan barely looked up from his phone. When I asked if everything was okay, she said, "We're fine." Just the usual teenage attitude. But something in her tone told me it wasn't just that. I kissed her goodbye that morning, told Ryan to take care of his mom, and left for the airport. I had no idea those words would come back to haunt me. The trip itself went smoothly. I closed a deal I'd been chasing for months, and was actually in a pretty good mood on the flight home. I remember texting Jenna from the airport, letting her know I'd be home by 6. No reply. I tried calling, no answer. I figured she was cooking or maybe napping. Ryan didn't pick up either, but when I pulled into the driveway, the house looked completely still. The curtains were drawn, no lights on. It was eerily quiet, except for that faint sound thump, thump, thump from the garage. When I opened the door and found her there, she was shaking, crying, and gasping for air. "He locked me in," she said between sobs. "Ryan locked me in here." I helped her up, my hands trembling as I tried to make sense of what she was saying. "What do you mean? Why, what happened?" She just kept saying, "You need to talk to him." Ryan was upstairs in his room when I found him. Door wide open, headphones on, playing video games like nothing had happened. I stood there, my heart pounding in disbelief. "Ryan, what the hell did you do?" I shouted. He paused the game, turned slowly, and said, "She deserved it, Dad." Just like that. Cold, detached, like he'd done something justified. I couldn't even speak. "Explain yourself, now." And he did too calmly. According to him, he and Jenna had gotten into an argument that morning. She'd taken his phone away after finding some messages. Apparently, he'd been talking to a group of older kids who'd been getting him into trouble, skipping class, sneaking out. Jenna had confronted him about it, and he'd yelled back, calling her controlling and abusive. He claimed she slapped him, something she swore she didn't do. After that, he stormed off, and later, when she went into the garage to grab something, he locked the door from the outside and left her there. He said she needed a taste of her own medicine. I didn't even know how to process that. On one hand, I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and shake some sense into him. On the other, I could see in his eyes that something deeper was brewing, something that went beyond teenage anger. I sent him to his room and went back to Jenna. She was sitting on the couch now, staring blankly ahead, her hands clasped tightly. "He's not the same anymore," she whispered. "He looks at me like I'm his enemy, like I'm nothing." That night was tense. Ryan refused to apologize. Jenna locked herself in the bedroom, and I just sat there in the living room, staring at the garage door, the echoes of her pounding still in my head. I barely slept. The next morning, I tried talking to Ryan again, but he shut down completely. He muttered that he hated living here, that Jenna was always in his face, that I was never around to see what she's like. I wanted to defend her, but part of me wondered, had I been blind to something? Had I been two hands off as a father? Over the next few days, the house became a war zone. Jenna was walking on eggshells, and Ryan was acting out more than ever. He'd leave without saying where he was going, come back late, slam doors. One night I caught him sneaking beer into his room, and when I confronted him, he just smirked. "You think I'm the problem," he said. "Ask Mom why I don't trust her." That line stuck with me, "Ask Mom why." So that's what I did. Later that night, when he was gone, I sat Jenna down and asked her to tell me everything. At first, she resisted, but then the truth came out, at least her version of it. She said she'd been trying to discipline him more lately because she found out he'd been expelled from school. Expelled? She hadn't told me. Apparently, he'd been caught vandalizing a teacher's car with some of those older kids he hung out with. Instead of coming clean, Jenna had lied to me, saying he was doing remote learning for disciplinary reasons. She said she didn't want me to overreact, that she was trying to handle it quietly. I was furious, not just at Ryan, but at her. "You lied to me," I said. "You both lied to me." She broke down crying, saying she was scared, that she didn't know how to reach him anymore. I understood her fear, but I couldn't ignore how much had been hidden from me. And now, that secrecy had exploded into something dangerous. The next day, Ryan came home with a black eye. When I asked what happened, he said one of his friends had taught him a lesson for snitching, whatever that meant. I wanted to take him to the police, but he refused. "You don't get it," he said. "You're not part of this." I looked at my son and saw someone I barely recognized. So that's the situation I was in, a wife who had been locked in a garage by our son, a son who seemed to be slipping into something darker every day, and me, stuck in the middle trying to hold everything together. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and think. If you were in my shoes, Rhythm, would you call the police on your own child? Would you kick him out? Or would you keep trying to save him, even if it was tearing your family apart? Let me know what you'd do, because I still question whether I made the right choice. After that night, I decided enough was enough. I told Ryan we were getting him help. Therapy, counseling, whatever it took. He laughed in my face. "You think some shrink's gonna fix this?" he sneered. "You don't even know what she did." I demanded to know what he meant, but he just shook his head and walked away. Later, I went through his phone, desperate for answers. What I found made my stomach drop. There were text messages between him and someone named T. The messages talked about getting revenge on her and making her pay. One message said, asterisk, "She's not innocent. You know what she did to your dad." Asterisk, that last one froze me. What asterisk she did to your dad asterisk. I scrolled back, trying to piece it together, and realized T wasn't just some random friend. It was Tyler, Jenna's coworker, the one she'd always said was just a friend, the one she'd text late at night about projects. My heart sank as I read their messages. Months worth of them. Flirty, suggestive, even intimate. I felt my entire world collapse in that moment. I confronted Jenna the next morning. She didn't even deny it. She just broke down and said it wasn't what I thought. She claimed it was emotional, not physical, that it happened during a rough patch between us. She begged me to forgive her, said she was going to end it, said she wanted to fix things, but I couldn't even look at her. The puzzle pieces started fitting together. Ryan must have found out about the affair before I did. That's why he hated her. That's why he locked her in the garage. When I told Ryan I knew the truth, he just looked relieved. Now you get it, he said quietly. Now you know why I did it. I told him that no matter what Jenna did, locking her up wasn't the answer. He stared at me with tears in his eyes. She broke you, he said. She broke us. And for the first time in a long time, I saw the scared kid underneath all that anger. The days that followed were complicated. Jenna moved out to stay with her sister while we figured out what to do next. Ryan started therapy, reluctantly at first, but eventually opened up about everything: how he'd seen messages between Jenna and Tyler, how he'd confronted her, how she'd lied to his face, and how helpless that made him feel. He said the garage incident was his breaking point. He wanted her to feel trapped the way he'd felt emotionally. I wish I could say things went back to normal after that, but they didn't. Jenna and I separated. She tried to reach out to Ryan, but he wanted nothing to do with her. Tyler, he disappeared from her life completely. I focused on rebuilding mine, with Ryan and with myself. Months later, I got a letter from Jenna. She said she was sorry for the affair, for the lies, for everything. She said she'd started therapy too, and she hoped one day Ryan could forgive her. I showed him the letter. He read it in silence, then handed it back to me. Maybe someday, he said, and me, I'm still healing. I still drive past that house sometimes and think about the night I came home to find my wife locked in the garage. It feels like a movie I watched a lifetime ago, but in a way, it forced the truth out. It exposed every crack we'd been ignoring for years. It broke us, but maybe it also saved us from living a lie. If you've made it this far, tell me what you think. Was Ryan completely out of line for what he did, or was he just a kid pushed to his limit by lies and betrayal? Was I too late in seeing what was happening right under my nose? Like this video, if you think I did the right thing trying to hold my family together, and subscribe for more stories like this one. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I really want to know how you see this whole situation. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.